NBA 2K24 gets stuffed by Steam reviewers. The basketball game now sits as the second worst rated title on Valve service, only behind Overwatch 2. One word comes to mind how Steam players are reviewing NBA 2K24: rejection. Fans of the basketball series from Visual Concepts seem extremely frustrated that the PC version is based on the PS4 and Xbox One version of the game instead of the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S edition. IGN reports Steam players are also slamming NBA 2K24 for crossplay missing in some modes, as well as a ton of cheating. Only 11% of over 2,800 reviews are positive on the basketball game Steam page. Steam 250's Hall of Shame lists the sports title as second worst of all time, only behind Overwatch 2. One of the most helpful reviews on Steam comes from someone explaining how to get a refund on NBA 2K24. Keep in mind that review bombing is nothing new for Steam or other platforms. Overwatch 2 recently experienced a ton of negative feedback on Valve service, though many of those came from Chinese players who couldn't access their previous accounts for the shooter because of Activision's breakup with NetEase. There's another significant difference between NBA 2K24 and Overwatch 2. The former hasn't even reached 3,000 user reviews, while the team-based shooter has over 118,000 user reviews on Steam. So it'll be interesting to see whether the basketball game bounces back at all with Steam players. NBA 2K24 launched September 8th on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Nintendo Switch. The basketball game's file size is reportedly larger than Starfield on Xbox Series. So, what do you think of NBA 2K24 basically being a crash and burn?
It's some new news to me altogether. I was focused more on the Xbox aspect of the gaming community, gaming news and all. But yeah, this surprised me. I think it does not. You get what you deserve. These companies they're too greedy with the microtransactions every year with these sports games like FIFA, NBA, NHL, and they keep rehashing the same graphic system over and over instead of improving it over little by little over time like it's supposed to, like it was back in the 2000s. Because I'm sure you hear what Angry Joe, at least with Madden NFL,
Yep.
players, he gets pissed off every year for the last 5 years now, saying the same thing, but not saying the same thing exactly, but he was screaming, he's like, you guys are doing the same exact thing. What is wrong with you, EA? EA Sports, whatever. It's like I understand, Angry Joe's pain. It's a curse now on EA to be cash grubbing, people,
Yeah,
businessmen.
and that's EA. That's not 2K. So we got another company that's basically rehashing the same game over and over, just changing the year. If you remember back in 2020 when we had Darkness the Curse come on, I asked him when I think it came to a Madden game, why can't they just update the roster? And he said they could, but they would lose out money on, instead of selling a new updated roster as DLC, they would lose out money on all those people who's going to buy the same game every single year.
Mhm.
And and that falls for everything: NHL and NFL, NBA, even WWE at this point. Um, Although WWE does find a way to mix it up with Legends, but still, it's a roster update, not. Um, so yeah, I mean, so NBA 2K24, it's basically people are just getting sick of these sports games not being as good as they used to be. Um, if it seems most people were happy like with the PS2 era of sports games, maybe the PS3 360 era, but nowadays it's basically just put out something as fast as you can, slap the label of the organization it's based on, and put it in the stores that we're getting from the developers of these sports games. Do you agree?
Yep, and that's all they've been doing for at least about 10 years now, since 2010s, early 2010s, and all. Before 2010s, it was getting better and better, I hear, or at least that's what based on select few people like having other circles of gaming friends online there back then at the time. on the 360 system. But over the last 10 years, it's like, it's a degrading benefactor of EA to sell sanding over and over, and people just eat it up like it's nothing. And if anyone's out there, or the audience watch and listen to this podcast and wondering, like, should I buy the new Madden, the new NBA 2K after all these years? If ever, in recent years, especially, I think you shouldn't, because you don't want to give the assumption or the assurance that EA is okay with, that players are okay with the quality of that is given in these recent entries of the sports games. It's ridiculous after a while. I mean, it's all about the people at this rate, the players, the gamers. But especially console gamers, because obviously for console gamers, we want to just pop in the disc and play it. We're not into all the specs. We're not into all the razzle dazzle, like RAM and the graphics cards and stuff like that. We just want to play the game, and that's about it. That's all we care for. But I think we now have to smarten up us console gamers to question the product as we speak, and not give them extra money, especially pre-order these items, every year. So it's it's all up to the players and gamers now.
Yeah, I just want to say, I know this really was about Madden, but EA is kind of guilty of the same thing, just in a different way. Um, the last Madden I liked how they did things was 2010. I heard 2011's not so bad, but in Madden 2010, when you went to a halftime show during franchise mode, they had this announcer in a studio. He was talking about your game. He was talking about other games. But they, like, even recently they've cut back on that. Like, they have Jonathan Coachman on Madden, I think 19 I have. Um, but you don't see him in the studio. You just see like the country, and coach talks about what's going on in different games, including your game. Um, but like, I was hoping Jonathan Coachman would appear on camera. He doesn't. So it's kind of like 2010 did the halftime show better than 2019 does.
Mm.
Also, I played a basketball game a few years ago. I think it was something like 2013, 2014. It must have been like a Michael Jordan showcase in that year, because it starts you off like in a game from the early 90s controlling the Bulls before you even get to the main menu. Um,
And I
and
was like a Taurus 50th birthday around that time too.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, that's Michael Jordan's 50th birthday around that time,
Oh, okay.
2013,
Well,
2014.
yeah. So I mean, I guess they were showcasing. I guess he was like a showcase for that year. Um, so it's and I that's cool. Also, sports games should have things like that. They should have more. They should have more games like more games should have features like that and modes like that. Um, but yeah, basically, from what I've seen in over the like past, I'd say at least 5 years, um, it's just been lazy from NFL and NBA. And honestly, NHL is not much better, because I used to play the NHL games on Game Pass until they stopped working. Um, I wouldn't be able to get at certain menus. I wouldn't be able to start an exhibition game for whatever reason. Um, and it's just like, and then these developers can't understand why their games get torn apart by video game players.
But I hope that people like Angry Joe are more vocal to other players in the sports gaming community altogether, whether it's NHL, NFL, NBA, hell, even racing games like F1 racing, if ever, I don't think it's not as bad as an F1 racing games, like was an F1 Formula, if there's the brand stills out there for yearly racing games. But other than that, just the basic three, what's called wrestling, football, and basketball. They get together and not, I used to call it a boycott. Yeah, it's best way, but console gamers also have to be smart with their money now more than ever, because yes, the pandemic's over officially this year. The economy is somewhat stale a little bit, so it's not all that great, but I see it's not all that bad. So you gotta be frugal with your money now, man. I'm no financial advisor, of course, but to say the fact that as a gamer in my 30s. You know, it's like I gotta worry about like finding more avenues to play better games on. You know, at this rate, because Xbox is not doing so well. The Steam sales of those games are not doing so with the sports games and all. So it's time to try to find another dynamic in our ways and means of gaming. So
Yeah, I think sports games it's illustrates the point that I'm going to make next better than almost any other genre. I think retro's the way to go. You know, you get a sports game from like the 2000s or even early 2010s, you're probably gonna have a much better time than the most recent sports game from this year. That's my opinion.